Hello, thanks for watching. Today's thought is really to soak or not to soak, right? So I normally try to consider saving things in the best, most original format that makes sense for whatever it is I have, right? So I can't always you know correct what somebody's done in the past, but I need to think about how I handle the stamp or cover or piece, so that when I'm done with it, the next person receives the best possible item they can receive. So, I default really to by piece, even though most of my collection is stamps. Pieces are harder to come by, less people save them. But when it makes sense, I save the stamp, or sorry, I shouldn't say on piece, on cover, right? On the complete cover. A piece being a piece of a cover with stamps, and then, of course, the separate stamp being a stamp soaked off its envelope. So, I default to, where possible, save the entire cover. It has the most information. It's a piece of postal history. You learn, where it's from, when it was, and who it's going to. You can look for things like, famous people or businesses that are out of business, or countries which no longer exist, or post offices or towns that no longer exist. All those things make it more interesting. So here in front of us, we have a set of covers just I randomly selected from a small pile I had handy. And we see here we have, what would otherwise just be a very nice stamp in the top corner here. And have a nice bird from England. And if we'd soaked that stamp, we would just have a nice canceled stamp, right? We wouldn't know that it was posted in 1995. It went by airmail, and then to whom it went, from where it went, or where it went to, I guess, not from whom. Possibly on the other side we might have from whom. I know we have that in some cases. Here we have, this really, really nice cover from India, going to Illinois in the U.S. Over here we have one from, let's see, Syria. And on the other side we do have who it's coming from in Syria. We have the dates I can just barely make out on these cancels as 81. Which matches up with a stamp from 1980. Sometimes when you're looking at covers, you're looking for interesting combinations of stamps, particularly on German covers. It can really make a difference in value based on the combination of stamps that you have, especially in the inflation period. Here we have a French one, and if we only soak the stamp off, it would be a fairly common stamp, but now we know, in what day in Paris this was used and where it was going, so it makes it more interesting. So here we have the next collecting layer down, if you will. In the case where we don't have the cover, or we somehow realize the cover we don't think will be worth much now or in the future, and we want something smaller to keep, the next layer would be to keep on piece. So here's some examples of ones that I have on piece. These are ones I just pulled out of a box just recently, so they're not like particularly prepared by me for collecting. So there's various conditions and whatnot. I could tune them up a little in some cases. In here, so I'll start just on the left-hand side. We have 4 different what we would call slogan cancels. So again, had we taken this Canal Zone one and we soaked it off, we just have regular bar cancel that we're used to. It wouldn't be that interesting. It's a common stamp, but here it actually has a Panama Canal slogan cancel. It makes it a lot more interesting. We have, Red Cross. We have Pray for Peace. The only other thing I would say that would be nice on these is if it also included the postmark. Maybe we'd have Pray for Peace and we'd see that this was done during World War II, which it almost definitely was. I'm sure I have some better examples of that around somewhere. We have tuberculosis. Then here we have an example of, one that we have almost all the information we need here so that it could be soaked off, but it's just a little bit nicer on piece. Now, next to that, here's some examples of 3 that I probably would consider soaking. Here I have enough information on the postmark. It's already cut too close, so the little bit of extra postmark there on what's remaining of the envelope doesn't bring any value to me, really. I would soak that. Here, it's a common stamp. It's already a messed up a tear that's truncating the cancel. I would go ahead and soak that. Now this one, it's a real nice on piece. I mean, I might clip it square or whatever, but the cancel is what we call a spot on the nose cancel. It's nicely centered. The only ink really off the stamp is this arc right here. I think that could be soaked and still be a nice stamp. I'm not really worried about losing a little bit of ink there. Somebody might disagree with me. Be happy to hear about that. Here's some more that I would definitely keep though. So here, almost all the important information here is off the stamps, and it presents nicely. You also see the stamps used in conjunction. Here we have Footscray, Victoria, on a particular date. Here we have a stamp from Tasmania. Here we have a stamp almost a spot on the nose, but here there's enough interesting information off the stamp. I prefer this one on piece. This one here, a pair of stamps, they're both perfins actually, but again we have a slogan cancel plus the postmark. I think that adds value. Here's a really interesting one. So we have a I would say wartime or pre-war, mostly pre-war, yeah, 1938 Sudanland postmark, right, with the Nazi swastika eagle slogan. Certainly those are fairly uncommon. That's real nice as it is. Had we only had this piece of the stamp, sure, somebody who's an expert might know what cancel this is, but they wouldn't know the date. And it presents much better as it is. Over here again, fairly common stamp, but having the rest of that cancel improves it. And then this is quite an interesting cancel. Again, with a group of stamps, improves the set. And here we go. Here's a slogan cancel, as I mentioned before, saved with its postmark, which together is much nicer. Lastly, I'll leave us with this really amazing piece that I just pulled out of a 12-pound box of stamps on paper, which I'm, again, planning on soaking many of, but there's no way I would soak this one. Again, it's a very common stamp. Even used in a strip like that, I'm sure is very common. But here we have just post-war 1948, and if we look to the addressed, it's the Admiral Richard L. Conolly of the U.S. Navy, who was in charge of the entire Eastern Atlantic and Mediterranean in the post-war period in England. So that's just amazing to have something of that kind of history that easily could have ended up, wet and soggy in somebody's trash. Together as a piece, I don't know how to value something like this. If somebody has any insight on how things like this are valued, that's very interesting to me. Not that I really care about the value in particular on any given piece, but it is interesting to know how things like that are valued. Really, the history to me is the most important part. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you have any insights or questions, feel free to share them.